So we've been doing this 21 weeks. 2 of those weeks I was off because I was out of town, and one I was just really feeling bad. So I had to take some time, which is something I don't do very well. It's take time for myself. But I did. And anyway, we're back. And like I said, this is the 19th episode of Mommy's Pocketbook, which is a weekly foray into yesteryear, i.e. Sometimes the 50s, 60s, 70s, but mostly 60s, 70s, 80s. On these 7-inch 45 records that used to belong to my mom. So what's in Mommy's Pocketbook? Which, if you ever get a chance to look inside a woman's purse, consider yourself a very blessed, because that's a no. But if you ever did, you would find out so much about that particular woman. And so this is my way of kind of like finding out what was hot in the streets for my mom, and her friends and her peers and her siblings and things. What was hot in the streets? What were the youth and young adults of that time into? And I sprinkled with a little bit of information about the artists, the record labels, the writers, and such. And we just vibe. So without further ado, we take 10 songs every week. Without further ado, we're going to get into the first one. Gotta get my notes. Because I don't just know this stuff off the top of my head, you know what I mean? I ain't no super music genius. I do my research. All these things that I tell you are available for you to even discover on the World Wide Web. So, please don't come for me if you think something is not quite, because I got it from the internet also. So first we start off with Dee Dee Shock. She was born Dion LaRue in Philly, just a couple of days after my mom. My mom's birthday is on the 3rd. Hers is on September 9th. Producers Cal Mann and Bernie Lowe created Dee Dee Sharp. As I said, her name was Dion when she was born. And they created that stage name due to the fact that they called her Dee, and she sang in the key of D sharp, so Dee Dee Sharp. She also played piano from a very young age, and she directed choirs at churches, including her grandfather's church, but also other churches in and around Philadelphia. And she started singing background vocals when she was just 13 years old, and then honing those skills by working on sessions with Lloyd Price, Frankie Avalon, Fabian, Bobby Rydell, Jackie Wilson, and Chubby Checker. The last one of which really turned her career around when her vocals were added to Chubby Checker's Slow Twistin', which topped the charts at number 3 in 1962, thus making it a duet. So she also got credit for that song and giving her career boost, because after her vocals were added to Chubby Checkers, her first solo session was booked the next day, and that's when she created Mashed Potato Time, which was a major hit for her. She became an overnight sensation after that. At 17 years old, it hit number 2 on the Billboard charts for 2 weeks. Number 1 R&B, and stayed there for 4 weeks. How you like those apples? Anyway, so she had a bunch of smaller hits after that, such as the follow-up to that, Gravy, For My Mashed Potatoes, and Ride, and Do the Bird. And her sales kind of dipped a little bit, and then she ended up moving to Atco at Atlantic, but the promotion wasn't there, so, and then in the midst of the time, she met a prominent producer, a very, very talented and skilled producer named Kenneth Gamble. They got married, and so her, Dee Dee, Kenneth Gamble, and Leon Huff started Gamble Records. But Gamble Records it was so-so also. Anyway, she had been marketed as a pop diva of sorts, Record label even sent her to charm school and modeling school, and she ended up having quite a few appearances on American Bandstand, which of course was very teeny bopper too. So that helped her of stay in the teeny bopper market because of the way she was marketing. Anyway, we're gonna listen to one of her at least top 100 hits, but not a super banger because it's not under 40. But in 1975, it hit number 62 on the R&B charts. It's called "I'm Not in Love." It's Dee Dee Sharp.
I'm not in love, so don't forget it. Just a silly phase I'm going through. And just because I call you up, don't get me wrong, don't think you got it made. I'm not in love, oh no. It's because I'd like to see you, but then again, that doesn't mean you mean that much to me. So if I call you, don't make a fuss. Don't go and tell your friends that the two of us. I'm not in love. No, no. It's because you waited a long time for me. You waited a long time. I keep your picture up on the wall. It hides a messy stain. It's lying there. So don't you ask me to give it back. I know it don't mean one thing to me. I ain't in love, no. It's because you wait a long time for me, honey. You wait a long time for me. Gotta believe it. I ain't in love, oh no.
Yes, Dee Dee Sharp right there. And of course, you know, that along with being married to Mr. Gamble of, yes, Gamble and Huff, that Philadelphia sound. Producer and arranger Bobby Martin had his hand in that too. And if you don't know who that is, they, they've known him in the industry as kind of the grandfather of R&B. He came along and he like made a superb impact on the industry at a time when it was changing from soul and into R&B. So it's like he was there when it was happening. So he was making that impact himself. You know, collaboration on so many different musicians with so many different musicians, not just the Philly bred ones. Production from Harold Melville and the Blue Notes, the OJs, and to his arrangements being used and sought after by the Jacksons and Lou Rawls and so many, many, many more. But let's listen to the other side. It's called "Make It Till Tomorrow." So she and Kenny Gamble got married about 1966 or whatever. But by 1980, that relationship was on its way out. She was divorced from Kenny Gamble by then, but she stayed relevant, and she appeared in the movie Desperately Seeking Susan, Don't Knock the Twist, Hairspray, Sister Act, and True Beverly Hills. So she was hanging out here in these streets. And I mentioned how Gamble Records had kind of like taken, a turn, and so they ended up starting another one, Gamble and Huff and Dee Dee. TSOP stands for the Sound of Philadelphia, of course, and it was named for the MFSB, Mother, Father, Sister, Brother song of the same name. It was the sister label to Philadelphia International Records, and they launched it in 1974 to replace the folded Gamble Records. It stayed there until 1977, took a hiatus, and was revived and relaunched in 1980 for about 2 years. Then it closed for good. Like I said, you had the likes of on TSOP, OJ's, McFadden, Whitehead, Gene Carn. So they was out here spreading that good Philly soul and now that good Philly R&B music. Bow.
Let me make it one more day. If I can make it till tomorrow, then I'll make it always, yeah. Darling, will be difficult for me. I'm living here without you. Lord, how can this be? When will I find what I'm after? When will your love set me free? All these things I'll go through for a little while. For a little while. If I can make it till tomorrow, Lord, let me make it one more day. If I make it till tomorrow, then I'll always, yeah. If I can make it till tomorrow, Lord, let me make it one more day. If I can make it till tomorrow, then I'll make it always. Show happiness. If I can make it till tomorrow, let me make it one more day. If I can make it till tomorrow, then I'll make it always.
Once again, that's Dee Dee Sharp. That's our number 1 choice out of our 10 randomly selected records from Mommy's Pocketbook. Here's number 2. It's been on here before, I believe, in like the last week or so. We've had one from this artist who, let me get my tool of acknowledgement. Flowers. You got to give people their flowers while they're still here, because he is still here, and you can go to hisnamesakes.com right now and book tickets for him well on into 2022. I'm talking about George Benson, R&B jazz style singer and guitarist from Pittsburgh. And, his credentials speak for himself. 10 Grammys, including for his breakthrough Breezin' in 1976, which topped the R&B, pop, and jazz charts, and took home Grammys for Best Pop Instrumental Performance, and Record of the Year. Top that. And he's still touring to this day. Like I say, you can find tickets at georgebenson.com from here on into the year 2022. Let's listen to Everything Must Change. That's going to be the A-side. Produced by Tommy the Puma. Written by Bernard Iger. It's a little crackly, but we love that.
Everything must change. Everything will change. Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. No, no. Everyone must change. Nothing stays the same. Young become the old. Mysteries to unfold. 'Cause that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are not many things in life you can be sure of. Except rain comes from the clouds and sunlight up the sky, and hummingbirds do fly. Turns to spring, wounded heart will heal. Yes, it will. Never much too soon. Everything must change. Young become the old. Mysteries to unfold. 'Cause that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are not many things in life you can be sure of. Except rain comes from the clouds and sunlight up the sky, and hummingbirds do fly.
Of course, he's a beast on the guitar, but he's a really nice, soothing voice. And so this was released on Warner Brothers Records. So how Warner Brothers got started back in 1967. Film producer Elliot Hyman's Seven Arts production acquired the movie mogul Jack L. Warner's controlling interest in Warner Brothers Pictures Incorporated. For $95 million in 1967. That was an astronomical number too, but Warner Brothers. So they ended up he ended up merging them, calling them Warner Brothers Seven Arts for a time, and then it eventually just became Warner Brothers altogether. And now it's part of the larger group of Warner Media Group. Let's listen to the B-side, The Wind and I, written by Ronnie Foster, a soul, jazz, funk organ player and keyboardist, also an arranger and a vocalist. Like I said, both these songs The Everything Must Change and The Wind and I were produced by Tommy LaPuma, who worked for A&M Records, also Blue Thumb and Verve Records, and he was a key figure in the career of artists like sorry about that artists like Michael Franks and Diana Krall, and he was an influential producer who inspired some of the younger producers like John Snyder, Arnold Saltiero, and Larry Rosen. Okay, and if you don't know who those are, John Snyder was a creative director for Horizon Records and Tapes, and he's worked with the likes of Quincy Jones, Yellow Magic Orchestra, Brenda Russell. Arnold de Saltiero has produced over 350 albums and sessions for many Brazilian artists, and he's based between LA and Brazil. And Larry Rosen has worked with the likes of Earl Klugh and Patty Austin and a host of others. So let's get into The Wind and I, the B-side of George Benson. right there. Now you see why he has all these Grammys, because he is a dynamic musician. Great voice, great talent in the guitar, putting together these songs. What more can you ask for? Let's get into our number 3. It's coming from a frequent visitor to our sessions, which means she must have been very popular, as quite a few of these album singles, record singles were owned. Lola, that was one of my mom's aliases. I don't know if you can see that on there. You know how you write your little nickname on there on your stab. Lola, don't come for me. Anyway, this is from Aretha Franklin, of course, known as the Queen of Soul. I don't have to give you a whole bunch of information about her. You already know. Singer, songwriter, pianist, also born in Memphis, raised in Buffalo and Detroit. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. I believe she was one of the first women to be inducted. And 18 Grammys. Hello. Including a Grammy Living Legend Award, which she got when she was here. We gave her flowers when she was here. I am excited that did happen. She was able to enjoy her success, the fruits of her success, by getting her flowers while she was still here. She got that Grammy Living Legend Award in 1990. And she also got a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 1994. 112 singles on the Billboard charts. Okay, sold over 775 million records worldwide. And she was even posthumously given a Pulitzer Prize citation for her, quote, indelible contribution to American music and culture for more than 5 decades. Let the church say amen. Okay, 5 decades. Your favorite R&B artist today could never. Okay? Anyway, let's listen to Call Me. 1970, number 13 hit in the pop charts. Number 1 for 2 weeks on the R&B charts. Aretha Franklin.
You too, baby, will you call me the moment you get there? Hey, baby, and I love you, and I love you too, and I love you, baby, will you call me the moment you get there?
tell you she was a singer and a songwriter. We're going to listen to the B-side. It's called Son of a Preacher Man. Written and produced by songwriting partners John Hurley and Ronnie Wilkins. Ronnie Wilkins is a singer-songwriter, pianist. And John Hurley, a singer-songwriter who also wrote for Joe Tex and Wayne Newton. So, son of a preacher, man. It's Aretha Franklin again.
Take me walking through the backyard. We go walking. They look into my eyes. Oh, no, not surprised. The only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man. The only boy who could ever teach me was the son of a preacher man. Yes, it was. From the other side, taking time to make time, telling me that he's all mine, learning from each other slowly, looking to see how much we're growing. The only boy who could ever reach me, I'm begging him, the only boy who could ever reach me.
She spent most of her career on the Atlantic record label. And towards the end, she was on Arista a little bit. In case you don't remember, I know we talked about it before. Atlantic started in 1947 by Ahmet Ertegun, wife Miriam, and then a few years later they added on Ermit's brother Nehusi and Jerry Wexler. And, you know, Atlantic was quite the force to be reckoned with in the industry. They ended up being purchased by Warner 7 Arts. And today, of course, they fall under Warner Media Group. Aretha Franklin. Let's get into our number 4 choice. It is from the Soul Children, who I think were maybe on... We might have played something from the Soul Children in the 2nd or 3rd episode. But anyway, we're going to play something again, because apparently they were quite popular. Soul Children were a music group from Memphis. It was Anita Lewis, Shelba Bennett, John Colbert, and Norman West. Anita, who started out singing with the WDIA Teen Town Singers, and a jock introduced her to Porter and Hayes duo, David Porter and Isaac Hayes, who were staff writers for Stax Records. And she ended up becoming a background singer for a lot of Stax artists. And she was the original solo singer with the Bar-Kays. So, anyway, Porter and Hayes, the duo, had worked with different members of the Soul Children at one point in time individually. And they had written some music for a particular blend of voices. And so they got them together. And then we got the Soul Children, who did 6 albums together for the duration of their existence. Let's get into this particular song right now. It's called Love Makes It Right. This is going to be one of those one-hitter quitters, because on the other side it's just the monologue from the song. So the main song is just on side 1 and another version on the other side. The Soul Children.
If you really love him and you're afraid to give yourself for fear of people talking, when they find he belongs to someone else, even though it's wrong on the public's eyesight. But if you really love him, go ahead. Love makes it right. 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 If you really need him, you're afraid to let you for fear there'll be a scandal, and you'll be looked upon as something low. Oh, they'll say it's wrong, wrong is right. But if you really love him, go ahead. Love makes it right. 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 Your friends will say there's no future in it all. But if your heart is content, just let it go. Oh yeah. Love makes it right. Love makes it right. Love makes it right. Go ahead, right. Love makes it right. It's love makes it right. Love makes it right. Love makes it right.
So that was written by Carl Hampton and Homer Banks. Carl Hampton, pianist, songwriter, producer, and Homer Banks, a singer-songwriter, producer, who recorded a few singles in the 1960s before he joined Stax as an in-house songwriter. He wrote for Sam and Dave, Staple Singers, and more. In 1968, he teamed up with Betty Crutcher and Raymond Jackson. They formed a group called We Three, songwriting team best known for Johnny Taylor's Who's Making Love. So yeah, they had good writing team behind them, and of course being on Stax with David Porter and Isaac Hayes. Hello. Stax record label started in 1975, just as influential as Motown when it came to that Memphis sound and funk. It was started by Jim Stewart and his sister Estelle Axon. The Stax name is named after their first 2 letters of their last names, ST and AX. Of course, they started off being called Satellite, but then they changed it to Stax in 1961. So, yeah, it includes the sublabels Volt as well. And you know Stax for Rufus and Otis Redding, Carla Thomas, and so many others. And you can still visit the Stax Museum in Memphis, Tennessee on 926 East Mecklemore Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee. So if you're ever in Tennessee, you want to check out that old school funk that was that Memphis sound, there you have it. Let's get into number 5's choice. It's going to be coming from the Dramatics. R&B group from Detroit, started in 1962. They were originally on Volt, which was a sub-label of Stax. around 1964, but they were dropped after one unsuccessful single. However, Tony Hester spotted them at a Detroit nightclub and got them re-signed, and success took off from there. See? You just never know. Sometimes if you fail the first time, second time is the charm. So, I guess moral of the story is keep going. You know them for In the Rain, 1972's number 5 hit on the pop charts, number 1 on the R&B charts. And Ron Banks, the original member of the group, produced Keith Sweat's remake of that song. And you know, what you see is what you get. Their number 9 chart-topping hit from 1971. And also, Hey, You, Get Off My Mountain, which hit number 43 in 1973 and number 1 on R&B charts. We're going to listen to Choosing Up On You, written by Tony Hester. Amazing soul producer, arranger, songwriter, and the person that got them back into the record label's studio. And let's check him out. The Dramatics.
You got what I like, baby. You know I'm crazy about it. Why don't you give it up so I can get it right now? Don't let me walk away without it. Hey, I'm choosing up on you, baby. You're the only one for me, it's true. I'm choosing up on you, baby. I got many fine girls to choose from. From them I shall refrain. Oh, if you would only surrender your love to me, baby. Don't let me walk away and pay. No. Shoot up on you, baby. You're the only girl for me. I'm shooting up on you, baby. My friends told me just as you. I never make you look good. I never make you look good. I'll always treat you right. Give all my sweet love to you, baby. I eat you every night. I'm shooting up on you, baby. Give all my love to you. I'm choosing up on you, baby. Washing my toes, baby, just for you. I can get a thrill anywhere. I can get a thrill. When it comes to satisfaction, hey baby, you're the star of the show. Oh, sugar, you're my main attraction. I never make you. I never make you. I'll always treat you right. Oh baby, give all my sweet love to you. Each and every night, I'm choosing up on you. You're the only one for me. I won't say it again. I'm choosing up on you, girl. I'm washing my toes, baby. Yes, I'm choosing you. Choosing up on you.
I'd also like to add that Tony Hester, we talked about at the beginning of the song, wrote all of the dramatic songs for their first and second album, so he's definitely a hit maker. He also wrote for the Dells, Marilyn McCoo, Jeannie Reynolds, Jimmy Delves, the Platters, and a whole bunch of other people. Lola, my mom put her name in there, Lola Childs. Anyone know where she got that name from? I never really knew. Just like nobody really knows all the different aliases I have and where they come from. But even though there's a story behind it. But anyway, another time. This isn't about me. This is about Mama's Pocketbook. Not Zombie's Pocketbook. Anyway, let's listen to the B-side, which was also, of course, written by Tony Hester. Dramatics. It's called Door to Your Heart.
door, on a wall, underneath the staircase, in the hall, on a hook behind the door, in the closet, on the floor, in the cupboard, on the shelf, in the basement, in the bar, oh, anywhere. See if there's a place for me in your heart. Swing open so that I can come on in. Underneath the staircase, in the hall, on the hook, behind the door, in the closet, on the floor. Hey, 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 in the cupboard, on the shelf, in the basement, in the dark. Anywhere, won't you see that? Just one little place for me in your heart. Wanting you, and loving you, oh baby, to swing over. Swing open so that I can go in. Let me in your heart. Yeah. Why don't you baby put it in your heart? In your heart.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Don't play with Tony Hester, because that's a banger right there. And that was a B-side. Like I told you before, you don't always have to be on the charts for it to be a banger in the black community. You know, we didn't rock with many songs before the mainstream started knowing who these people were. And we still do that to this day. Anyway, and if you wonder what I've been nibbling on too, I had this cereal flavored Kit Kat. I was intrigued because one, it was pink, and I was like, I wonder if it really tastes like cereal. It does. It's really delicious. They also had a key lime pie flavored one. Didn't try that one yet because I don't even know how I feel about key lime pie. Period. So let alone in the Kit Kat form. But anyway, let's get into our number 6 choice out of our 10. It's from Charles Mann. I don't think we played any Charles Mann thus far on these shows. So we're going to Say You Love Me Too. Written by David Crawford and Charles Mann himself. David Crawford was a singer, songwriter, keyboardist, producer, acclaimed producer with Atlantic. He worked with Mighty Clouds of Joy, worked with Candy Stanton, and definitely responsible for Young Hearts Run Free, 1976, and also B.B. King, and also responsible for Linda Lydell's What a Man, What a Man, What a Man. So yes, that is the same one from 1968 that was remade by Salt and Pepper in 1994. So Charles Mann is considered one of the superstars of swamp pop. What's swamp pop, you say? It's basically like a rock-influenced music of southeastern Louisiana. So, and although he wasn't quite known outside of Louisiana's French Triangle, he has had several hits, including Keep Your Arms Around Me, You're No Longer Mine, and She's Walking Towards Me. His most successful songs have been covers of Neil Diamond's Red Red Wine, 1969, and Dire Straits' Walk of Life in 1988. As a youngster, he sang in church and eventually joined his first rock group, Rick and the Hound Dogs. But 4 years later, he joined a more professional group, the El Tradors, and caught the attention of Lee Laverne, record producer and owner of the Lanner record label. Lee signed him to a record contract. His debut single, Keep Your Arms Around Me, became a regional hit. And they performed mostly in the southeast Louisiana, southeast Texas area, kind of like between Baton Rouge and Beaumont. And he built quite a following. He was inducted into the Louisiana Hall of Fame in 1990, and received the Louisiana Living Legend Award in 1998. So let's listen to Say You Love Me Too. This was all released on ABC Records. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But let's get into Charles Mann, Say You Love Me Too. Say you love me too. Won't you? I promise to love you. Say you love me too. Say baby, won't you? I promise to love you. It's so hard doing nothing at all without someone to call my own. If you say you'll stay with me, I'll provide all the things you need. Won't you? I promise to love you. Oh, say love to you. Won't you? I promise to love you. Love can hurt. I felt it before. But strange, I keep on coming back for more. Everything I want ain't always what I need. But what I need from you right now is to stay here with me. Love me too. Won't you, baby? I promise to love you. Say you love me too. Won't you? I promise to love you. Say You Love Me Too. Now, I'm sorry that Charles Mann didn't get the super success that he might deserve, but that was pretty much a banger right there. Let's listen to the B-side, which is also written by David Crawford and Charles Mann themselves. It's called I Can Feel It. Like I said, this was released on ABC Records. Of course, that stands for American Broadcasting Corporation. And American Broadcasting and Paramount Theaters Incorporated. Okay? They formed a sub-company called the Empire Record Corporation, where, of course, they released pop, jazz, R&B, children's music, and spoken word. And then they, the Empire Record Group changed to just ABC Paramount Records, incorporated in 1963. They launched Impulse, Bluesway Records, 20th Century Fox, and some more. So, yeah. Get with it. Let's listen to the B-side. It's called I Can Feel It. It's Charles Mann.
Across the face, I felt a cool feeling. Something very real was happening between you and me. Something very strong was coming on. I could feel it, feel it. I can feel it, I feel it in my bones. Love has come away before. Each time it knocked on my door, I withdrew because of jealousy. But now the real thing is coming to you and me. I can feel it, I feel it, I can feel it, I feel it in my bones. I press your body close to mine. The thrill we shared was mystifying. All night long, drinking and driving till the dawn. But I feel all that out. You're changing me, there just ain't no doubt. I can feel it, I feel it, I can feel it, I feel it in my bones. Those lovely days are here again, in my hands and I'll speak. But guess we're running out again. Oh, baby, baby, yeah. Just like a hand in love, so are we in love. I knew what I felt was forever. Separate ways, oh no, never. I could feel it, I felt it, I could feel it, deep in my bones. Oh, I could feel it, feel it, I could feel it in my bones. Oh, feel it, feel it, I could feel it, I could feel it in my bones.
I like it. Charles Mann. Swamp Pop. First time I ever heard of Swamp Pop when I was looking up background information about Charles Mann. If that's what Swamp Pop is, I can dig it. Okay, let's get into our number 7. It's from another frequent guest on our show, as they had to be very popular. If my mom had all these other 45s of this, Dolores, this one says her middle name. It's called the Stylistics. That's the group, R&B vocal group from Philly, featuring Russell Tompkins Jr., Aaron Love, James Smith, James Dunn, and Herb Morrell. At least that was the first incarnation of them. During the 1970s, The group had 12 straight top 10 hits, including You Are Everything, number 9 on the Billboard charts in 1971. Betcha by Golly Wow, number 3 on Billboard charts in 1972. I'm Stone in Love with You, also in 1972, was number 10 on the charts. Break Up to Make Up, number 5 in the charts in 1973. And also You Make Me Feel Brand New, number 2 for 2 whole weeks, holding that spot in 1974. And that's not it. That's just some of the hits they've had. They were formed in 1968 when members of the Philadelphia's soul groups, the Monarchs, and another group called the Percussions, they dissolved, and so the remaining members who were around and still trying to kick it in the music scene banded together. Tompkins Jr., James Smith, and Aaron Love were from the Monarchs, and James Dunn and Herb Morrell were from the Percussions. So they got together, and the Stylistics were born. And they recorded You're a Big Girl Now, a song their road manager Marty Bryant co-wrote with Robert Douglas, and members of their backing band, Slim and the Boys. And the single became a regional hit for Sebring Records, and that put them on the map for AFCO to sneak in and be like, hey, let's sign you to a deal. And the single, once they did that, the single climbed to number 7 on the charts in early 1971. We're going to listen to Rock and Roll Baby, which was another hit for them. I don't know why I don't have the number here, but we will talk about it once I get that for you. But it's written by one of the superstar Philadelphia sound writers and writing team, that is, Tom Bell, who worked with closely with Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. And Linda Creed, his writing partner, his frequent writing partner and lyricist, who wrote like a lot of those lyrics for those hits that I just named before. Betcha by Golly Wow, You Are Everything. So let's get into it. It's called Rockin' Roll Baby, and it's the Stylistics.
Sing
conductor and producer, multi instrumentalist. He's part of that whole movement of the Philly sound with Gamble and Huff, Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2006. And Linda Creed, lyricist, singer-songwriter. She also did background vocals for the Stylistics, New York City, and the Spinners. And she collaborated a lot with Tom Bell and Michael Masser. And she was inducted to the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1992 because she has a plethora of hits that she's helped create. So that duo of Tom Bell and Linda Creed also wrote the B-side, which is called Pieces. This was released on Avco. Avco was a portion of Avco Embassy Pictures Corporation, right? But they launched kind of like a music area in 1969. Then they ended up just shortening it from Avco Embassy to Avco in October of 71. But let's get into this other side of the Stylistics. It's called Pieces. Social media, here today, gone tomorrow. Let's listen to, we have three more. Let's listen to our number 8 choice out of Mommy's Pocketbook. This one comes from Skip Mahoney and the Casuals. DC alert, because this is a group that is from DC. So we always got to go up for the hometown. Anyway, Skip Mahoney, along with his fellow Francis Cardozo Hall dwellers, George Norris, James Morris, Franklin Radcliffe, and Morris Moore, formed the Casuals. In 1965, they solidified their best-known lineup with Roger Chapman, Billy Jones, and original member George Norris, becoming a quartet, of course, with Skip Mahoney. And then they joined forces with another Cardoza homie, James Purdy, who was a partially blind multi-instrumentalist who had made a name for himself at Cardoza. And he could play, arrange, and write songs. So they frequently played at a place called The Room and the Mark IV in Northwest D.C. and also the Carousel in Baltimore with the guitarist Otis Brown, bassist Ira Watson, joining James Purdy, who handled the drums and the keyboards as needed. So they had like a traveling group of musicians to perform together, so it's a whole band and not just the singers. Anyway, over the course of 2 years, the group cut 7 tracks with Robert Jose Williams at DB Sound. But when the first single came out, folks weren't too pleased with the fact that it was when it came from the printing plant for DC International Records Incorporated. They were billed as Skip Mahoney and the Casuals. You know, the fellas didn't like that. How did he get pushed out front like that when we're all the Casuals? Anyway, so they quit. And then, you know, Skip got enlisted 3 others to join him, Tracy Reed, Jerome Rogers, and Alan Morgan, in order to support the new albums, because they had already recorded all this music. So, and now we need to go on tour and, you know, ride this wave. And so they did that, and they took them which took them 2 realms outside of DC International to Abet Records. And after they stayed with them for a while, you know, clearly, but after a management deal went south with a mob-connected Joe Fontana in New York City, and disco started springing up in place of live venues, the group petered out around 1978. But before they left us with at least a couple of tracks. We're going to listen to 2 of them. First one, both of them written by James Purdy and Skip Mahoney. The first one is Wherever You Go.
you, hey baby, and you know.
Okay, DC in the house. Get my honey in the casual sounding real good right there. Real goods right there. Let's listen to the other side. Like I said before, it was written by James Purdy, who pretty much did all the arrangements and musician portions of the music, and Skip Mahoney himself. This one's called And It's Love.
Searching for. Let there be no doubt in your mind, you'll be searching no more. Like the love that you know how it feels. How it feels. And at last you found that love is here. You found a love and you know that it's real. And it's love. It's love. It's love. It's
DC, don't play with DC. For real. DC stands for Don't Come for Us. Skip Mahoney and the Casuals. I feel like they should have been way bigger than they were, but that's just me. And who am I? Just a person that likes music, that's all. That's it. So anyway, that was brought to you on Abet Music, Abet record label, which was a soul R&B subsidiary label of Ernest L. Young's Nashboro Records, which is one of the dominant black gospel labels of the 1960s and 1970s. When it started almost exclusively releasing soul music on 7-inch singles, with just one compilation album until 1970, When the label folded in 1977, it had only put out less than a dozen LP releases in 12 years. So, the parent company, Nashboro, went to MCA, and of course, the masters of everything, Nashboro and Abet related, are now owned by Universal Music Group. Let's get into our almost last one, our penultimate, our number 9 choice out of our 10 is coming from Baby Washington and Don Gardner. And it's on Master 5 record label, which was kind of an obscure record label that only had a handful of artists and was based out of T-Deck. Baby Washington, soul singer, born in Bamberg, South Carolina, and raised in Harlem. 1956, she joined a group called The Hearts when she was there, but of course, a couple of years later, no, actually a year later, she ended up going solo. And she had 2 hits in 1959, The Time, which was R&B Top 30, and The Bells, which was an R&B Top 20. And then in 1961, she had Nobody Cares, which was also in the Top 20. So she had a couple hits under her belt, and That's How Heartache Were Made was the one that hit the pop charts at number 40 in 1963. The one we're going to check out tonight is the duet between, of course, Baby Washington and Don Gardner, R&B singer, songwriter, and drummer. It's called Baby, Let Me Get Close to You. Written by Arthur Adams, a veteran blues guitarist of the 1950s and 60s, who moved into funk and with his own releases and working with the group The Crusaders. And he toured on bass for Nina Simone. It's Baby Washington, Don Gardner. Baby, Let Me Get Close to You. Baby Washington, Don Gardner. Let's listen to the B-side, of course, which is another Baby Washington and Don Gardner collaboration Written by half of that Motown sound team, Brian Holland and Lamont Dozier. You know them from their collabs on as Holland Dozier Holland with Brian and Eddie Holland and Lamont Dozier. They were critical to the success of the Motown sound when they were brought in to breathe life into the Supremes, and you saw what that did. The best girl group of all time. I mean, they put girl groups on the map. So, there you have it. And plus also Jackson 5 and many, many more that helped Motown become the hit-making factory that it was. But along with Brian Holland and Lamont Dozier was Frankie Gorman, singer-songwriter, musician, and record producer on this particular track. It's called Forever. Again, it's Baby Washington and Don Gardner.
Darling, forever, forever, you can break my heart forever if you want to. I'll play the part of a fool just to be with you forever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Darling, forever, forever. You can torment me, take my love for granted, but I'll always be just a fool if I can just be with you. I'll be your slave, just for week, for the rest of my days. Just tell me about it. Say it again. Just to be with you. It thrills me through and through. And I want to spend my whole life being in love with you. Forever, forever. You can talk to me, take my love for granted, but I'll always be just a fool if I can just be with you. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Forever, forever. You can talk with me forever, forever. You can break my heart, I'll be a fool just to be with you forever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on, yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll make you feel good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bring it down, yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on, yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so that brings us to our final, our 10 selection from Mommy's Pocketbook. Let you know what was in Mommy's Pocketbook. What were the youth and young adults of 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s listening to? It was hot in the streets back then. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my mom, too. I learn a little bit about my mom all the time, especially when I pull out things like Led Zeppelin right next to the Stylistics and the Dramatics and the Soul Children and Julio Iglesias. I love it because I'm pretty well-rounded in my musical taste also. We're going to get into our last one. I'm actually going to play the B-side first, and it is from a superstar, amazing songstress, Flowers While She's Here, Roberta Flack. I don't know where my little device went, but yeah. Roberta Flack, born on, this is from Atlantic Records. We talk about Atlantic all the time. Ahmed Erdogan, Herb Aberson, Miriam, his wife, and then later with Jerry Wexler and Nehusi Erdogan. force to be reckoned with in the game. Roberta Flack was also one of those forces to be reckoned with in that game. Prestigious soul singer songwriter from the golden age of soul music, like when it was really, really, really hitting your soul. Okay, she's influential on artists like Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, so many more. 16 albums, solos, and duets. Best known for her smash hits "Feel Like Making Love" from 1974. It was number one for 1 week and number one for R&B for 5 weeks and number one in adult contemporary for 2 weeks. Okay, don't play with Miss Flack. Okay, and also the first time ever I saw your face, which was number one for 6 weeks in 1972, was also from the movie Play Misty for Me, which featured Clint Eastwood in that. And the last song that we're about to play, but we're going to play the B-side first. It's called Just Like a Woman. It was written by Bob Dylan. Yes, the Bob Dylan, singer-songwriter, song and dance man, Songwriters Hall of Fame inductee for 1982, and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee in 1998. He also won a Nobel Prize in Literature. He also has his hits, many of those, like a Rolling Stone from 1965, which was number 2 for 2 weeks. Rainy Day Women, number 12 and 35, which is number 2 in 1966 for 1 week. So Bob Dylan is very, very, very much respected in the rock and music in general industry. So let me start that from the beginning. This is Roberta Flack. picture Bob Dylan even singing that himself. So we're gonna get into our very last song for this episode of Mommy's Pocketbook. It's the A-side, and it was number 1. As much as we want to think the remake is a banger, absolute banger, and it is, and it still bangs in the club today. It only made it to number 2 on the Billboard charts for 3 weeks. Roberta Flack's version was number 1 in 1973 for 5 weeks on the pop chart. So, who did it best, the original or the person after? You know, I think they're both awesome. But we're going to get into Roberta Flack, Killing Me Softly with his song. Written by partner team Norman Gimbel and Charles Fox. Lyricist Norman Gimbel originally recorded this with Lori Lieberman, but who cares about that? This one is a banger. And Charles Fox, musician, producer, bless her heart, but anyway. Roberta Flack, Killing Me Softly with his song. Number 1 for 5 weeks in 1973. And while the Fugees are still banging in the clubs to this day, in 1996, like I said, they only made it to number 2 for 3 weeks. So, yeah. Whatever.
Drumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly with his song. I heard he sang a good song, I heard he had a style, and so I came to see him to listen for a while. And there's young boy, a stranger to my eyes, strumming my bass with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly with his song. I felt all flushed with fever, embarrassed by the crowd. I felt he found my letters and read each one out loud. I prayed that he would finish, but he just kept right on, strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly with his song. He sang as if he knew me in all my dark despair, and then he looked right through me as if I wasn't there, and he just kept on singing, singing clear and strong, strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song, telling my whole life with his words, killing me softly with his song.
into those Billboard stats. I'm pretty sure that the Fuji one is still killing because it's still moving units. However, I'm just saying. The fact is, this one reached number 1, and it's a great, great song. That one reached number 2, and it's a great, great rendition of a great, great song. Anyway, that's it. That's all my time. We have discovered 10 more hits of what the streets will listen to, what my mom and her peers and her family members, youth and young adults of the 60s, 70s, and 80s were listening to. And I will see you guys next week for 10 more again. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, if you didn't get to see all of this one at your leisure, you can check me out on Kane Dizzle on YouTube. Holler!